correctly. There was a little note in the notes of the game that they said they are planning on nourishing the game this coming year, which makes me very optimistic that we might actually see more balance patches. Guys, we gotta make the petition. Forget about Save PvZ Heroes. That petition we've solved already. Taking that one down, it's bring back clock synergy. Today's video is sponsored by a really fun mobile game, Nova Island. The creator of Nova Island is a huge fan both of PvZ Heroes and the FryEmUp channel, and was inspired by PvZ Heroes to make a game of his own. Nova Island is a collectible card game in which you place your units onto a grid with spots that have a chance of activating. When a spot with your unit on it lights up, you gain points equal to that unit's power. First person to 20 points wins. You can use the Energy class to rush your opponent by putting tons of stats on the board, the Boom class, annihilating every card your opponent plays, or my personal favorite, the We Need a Leap class, and transform your units into more and more powerful ones until you win the game. I personally tried Nova Island, and once I got used to its unique mechanics, it was a lot of fun. Download Nova Island for free on the Google Play or Apple App Store by scanning the QR code on your screen, or you can find the link in the description below. What's going on, everybody? This is Fry. So today we are going to be going through every zombie that was changed in one way or another in the recent balance patch, the December 2024 balance patch, and I will be telling you my initial thoughts on how I think they will be, if they're going to be absolutely broken or S tier at the top of the meta all the way down to F tier, which means that the card is unusable. Obviously, I haven't tested every single card over the next couple of months. I'm going to be trying to do as many decks featuring specifically these new cards that have been changed in one way or another to really find out how good they are, but I have tested a lot of them. And the other ones I'll just be giving you my best guess as to how I think they will be doing in the meta. And speaking of one that I have tested and is going to probably be super surprising to a lot of you, the first card on the zombie side is Cat Lady, and this is borderline SS broken tier. I'm going to, for the sake of argument, put this in S tier. Now, it's funny because Cat Lady has actually gotten nerfed. It used to have 4 health, it went up to 5, and then all of a sudden this crazy thing happened that they put it down to 3, which is like, what? It's even worse now than it was before, and the reason why Cat Lady got nerfed, I'm 100% sure right now, is because of the change to Yeti Lunchbox. Yeti Lunchbox adds 1/1 to something, but if it's a pet, it's 2/1. It looks like a little nerf, but when it comes to exactly Cat Lady, this makes such a big difference. Since Cat Lady is gaining 3 attack every single time that turn you've played any kind of pet or pet trick, every Yeti Lunchbox you play in your Cat Lady effectively adds 5 attack. And that's very important because that means 2 Yeti Lunchboxes makes a Cat Lady have 10 attack. If you guys have ever been following the channel for any length of time, you'll know that one of my favorite decks ever in the history of the channel is OTK Cat Lady with the Morticia, where you teleport in a Cat Lady, put a bunch of lunchboxes on her, and use a bonus attack. Right now you need just 2 lunchboxes for her to get to 10, and then a lurch for lunch, and then that is 20 damage to your opponent's face. That is one of the decks I will be showing you and displaying over the next week or two. It's a long list of decks that I have already prepared. But just because of that combo, and again, even in other decks, I'm sure there's going to be opportunities to have a very unassuming Cat Lady and all of a sudden pop 2 lunchboxes on it. And this thing is an absolute monster. I'm putting in S tier, and this could end up being broken. This could end up really being one of the top meta decks in the game. I'm not exaggerating, but I'll let you guys wait till I make that video and you can decide for yourself. Next card is Nibble. So Nibble is 1/1. It doesn't heal anymore, which hurts. I loved the heal. Now it's conjuring you a gourmet card, which is a little bit unintuitive. Also, it's not conjuring the gourmet card all the time. It's only when it destroys a plant. This card was bugged. They fixed it. It actually is not Honestly, I don't think this is as good as it was before. This looks like a buff, but I think this is overall a nerf right now. I would rather have 2 guaranteed health than conjuring a gourmet card. Because what's a gourmet card? It's a tempo card. It's a lunchbox. It's a leftovers. It's, you know, vitamin Z. Something like that, which is a tempo card. So you're basically gaining a tempo card off of a control card. So what kind of deck are you running? Are you a control deck or are you a tempo deck? Obviously, if you finish something off, conjuring a card is great, and that could be useful in a tempo deck, but typically the use for Nibble in tempo decks was, you know, you have a 2-2 on the board, they put a 2-3, use Nibble, and now you go from a losing trade to a winning trade. But in those scenarios, you're typically not killing the plant that your guy is facing. I actually feel like, again, in control decks, if you're an Immune Morticia late game, this card got worse, and even in tempo decks, this idea of it has to destroy the plant really is a little bit counterintuitive. I think, again, people are really raving about this, but I think this card really is not even as good as it used to be. It still is useful. We are still going to be running these in Beastly package, which is Cheese Cutter, Cyborg, Nibble, Extinction Event. I'm going to optimistically put this in B tier because, again, the gourmet card will sometimes be really good, but it's a hard card to activate, really, for the ability. So it's basically 1 cost minus 1/1, which is not bad. Next, we're going to Lunchbox, so it's basically going to be the same places as Cat Lady. This is a big deal for pets. This is going to be the key card for any pet deck in terms of adding attack all in one place. I mean, if this is going to be an S tier, I'm going to put this in A tier because, well, if Cat Lady's only S tier because of Lunchbox, maybe by that logic, Lunchbox should be an S tier. Why do I want to put this in A? All right, screw it. It's going in S tier. Guys, welcome to 2025. Here we go. Synchronized Swimmer has been severely nerfed, and it went all the way from S tier down to F tier. Okay, I can't say that with a straight face. To be honest, though, Synchronized Swimmer is, I mean, easily an A tier card. It probably is S tier. This is a really, really good card in so many decks. The fact that you can copy anything stats for 2, any little buff, even if this is like a 3/3, it's absolutely freaking OP. This probably is a low S tier card. Screw it. I'm putting in S tier. I think Synchronized Swimmer is really, really good. All right. Here comes Zookeeper. Swimmer works in decks where you buff things. It works in decks where you have Secret Agent, obviously, but you don't even need that. All right, so what are we going to do with Zookeeper? I, honestly, even though I love this change from 2 cost 2/2 to 1/3, it means this has a much higher chance of surviving on the board. I don't think Zookeeper is really that good of a card. And the reason is because if you're running a bunch of pets in your deck, in order to get the little 1 attack buff every time you play a pet from Zookeeper, that sometimes can be good, but the problem is that you're basically building your whole deck around Zookeeper. I don't even think Cat Lady really counts as a pet synergy card. Obviously, it benefits from pets, but it's not giving your other pets anything other than, you know, a reason to put them in the deck to buff Cat Lady. Zookeeper obviously gives stats to your other pets, but the problem is if you're running a bunch of pets in your deck and you're really relying on Zookeeper to get those extra stats every time you play a new Leftovers or a new Camel Cross, little pet tricks, what happens if you don't get your Zookeeper? I've been really trying to find a home for Zookeeper since this change. There's also the fact that Kabloom really is the meta because of all the, you know, Kabloom cards that are really, really good. And, you know, after the changes, and Kabloom has the perfect answer for Zookeeper on turn 2. It just gets Berry Blasted every single time, and gets very easily removed on turns after that as well. Maybe if Kabloom was in the meta, this would be higher. Like, if we went back to the Guardian meta, I think Zookeeper could really have a chance, because there's not a whole lot Guardian has to deal with Zookeeper when you spam it dry on turn 2. But because I think the card is fundamentally flawed, if you're going to have to build a deck around it, and then what if you don't get Zookeeper? Your deck kind of sucks at that point. I'm going to be putting this pretty low. I'm going to be putting this in... Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm putting this in C tier, and I am going to try my best very, very hard over the next month or two to find a way to utilize Zookeeper really, really well. It's going to take a lot of creativity, but right now I haven't seen it. And I'm optimistically putting this in C tier because I don't actually think it's very good. Next. Again, even if you don't spam it dry, you play it on, okay, so now you're playing, what are you playing on turn 2? So you're playing on turn 3 with a Camel Cross okay, that can be good, but I'm talking about consistency. I want to see consistent wins with the deck. Who knows? I'd love to be proved wrong and this be up in S tier in the next 2 months when I redo this tier list. Alien Ooze. Alien Ooze is a really, really, really good card. Just 3 cost minus 3/3 is devastating. This can remove all the attack from something, and very often all the health. Not just what they're playing the first few turns, but even like turn 4, turn 5. Turning like a 4/4 into a 1/1 is basically killing something. Besides for the fact it's 6/6 when it's on heights or environment. The fact, again, the bottom line of Alien Ooze was increased makes this a really, really good card. I'm putting it in A tier. You can run this in basically any deck you want. Piano, also very good at 3. You're going to obviously have to have other cards to remove those low ones, but Beastly and a lot of other classes have the resources to do that. This can get a ton of value. It is worth running at 3. I don't think it's quite Alien Ooze, but it's pretty good, and we're going to be putting it in B tier. Next is the Kangaroo. Guys, now instead of when it takes 3 damage, instead of it dying, it goes back to your hand. Just get rid of the ability. Just make it a 4-cost 4/4 pet. It probably Imp Pet. Guys, it would have so many uses. It probably would see more play if it didn't have any ability. But anyway, poor old Kangaroo is still down in F tier. Next, yeah, broken, exactly. Broken in the wrong way. Overstuffed Zombie is really interesting. It doesn't, again, gain all the extra health, but it doesn't have to. It's healing your face. It's healing itself to full health. It has Hunt now, which is like, you know, anyway, Overstuffed Zombie, it was a meme card because you just needed to play it into, you know, hunting grounds for it to even be good. I think Overstuffed Zombie is okay. I still think it actually is very outclassed, though, by Bounty Hunter, which is exactly a 4-cost 4/4 in the exact same class. So I don't think it's going to see a ton of play, but I think there is going to be some niche uses for it, and I will put it in C tier. Next, we are going on to Primordial Cheese Shover. This little 1 health buff, it went from 4/3 to 4/4, is pretty significant. I'm still going to, again, find a lot of use for it, but the fact that its stats are on par really does make this more interesting of a card. It's probably not going to even see as much play as Zookeeper or poor old Bubba Boy over here. I'm going to put it in D tier, but again, I think this is still a decent card. I just think there's way better options in the Beastly class for removal that it's going to be hard to really find a justification for this, running it in a deck. Next, we got Big Borg. Now, Big Borg has made Little Cyborg now from S tier to SS tier. It was a buff, but still no one's going to actually run actual Vengeful Cyborg ever. I mean, look what the Beastly class has now when it comes to, like, big cards. No one should be running this. It's easily F tier. All right, here's a really hard one, Deep Sea Gargantuar, and this is another one that's going to take a lot of work to find a home. This does a lot. Right now, the way this card works is you play it on the board, it becomes a 7/7. Every other card you play then gets a 1/1 buff, and then every time anything else moves, it gets a 1/1 buff. I think Deep Sea Garg is also supposed to gain a buff when it moves, but it's not currently. It's a little bug. But anyway, you know, this is like when you play this on the board, 6-cost 7/7. It's anyway good. It's hunting. When this will do what it's supposed to do and actually hunt into the board and gains, and now you have a 6-cost 8/8, which is ridiculous stats. It's also gaining a lot to your zombies. Like, I feel like this is a card that, again, it's a big dry zombie that's not doing necessarily anything when you play it on turn 6. Obviously, if it's turn 7 or 8 and you have little minions like a little cheese cutter or something like that, you're not going to get a whole lot of value before this is removed. It's still leaving value on the board. I think this is going to be good. I don't think this is going to be broken like a lot of people are saying. It can take over a game, but it's still very susceptible to removal. So again, it would be Shamrocket, Cob Cannon, Briar Rose. I think those cards are all actually going to be very meta now that big minions are good. I think special Spore, I think these cards are actually going to see a lot more play, especially with like untrickable, you know, cards in the game. I guess Shamrocket won't be. I kind of believe in this. It's either high B or low A. I'm really reserving A. I mean, we're putting Alien News. This is a card you're going to be putting in every deck, and I'm still putting in A. I'm going to be putting Deep Sea Garg in high B tier. I think just because there's a limited amount of decks that this is going to be useful, I think you're going to have a lot of things that are naturally moving around. Maybe playing this later and then spamming a few guys. It's going to take some I think there's a niche decks this is going to be good, but in those decks it's going to be very, very good if it doesn't get answered immediately when played. And that reason I'm putting in high B tier. Almost could have been an A tier. I'll put in high B. Next. King of the Grill. Well, the Beastly class, people are asking in the Twitch chat, the Beastly class, why didn't Alien News get a buff? Wasn't it one of the best? It wasn't one of the best cards. It was actually one of the weaker, big removal cards if you compare it to Rocket Science and things like that. However, the Beastly class in general was a very weak class. That's why they gave the Beastly class probably the most low. Okay, the Brainy class. The Brainy and Beastly had low win rates, so that's why they gave those a lot of love. King of the Grill has just been changed, same stats, but now instead of conjuring gourmet cards, it's conjuring gargantuars. I think that's a pretty big deal. I think that's better. Usually gourmet cards like Cheese Cutter, you know, cheap card likes to conjure gourmet cards for tempo. A big card like a Garg, this means that when you get King of the Grill, like you don't have to run as much late game because this can be conjuring you specifically more late game. It's a late game card conjuring you late game. I think that's kind of what this wants to do. There's also very good Garg synergy nowadays, and I'll be getting to that the next zombie. This is good. This is a good card. I'm going to be putting it high C tier because it's not going to see a ton of play, but it is a solid pick for a lot of decks. I like it. Next. All right, this is looking good. All right, next we got Nurse Gargantuar. Nurse Gargantuar is bugged right now, but when it will do what it does, what it's supposed to do is that when any Garg, including itself, damages anything, it's going to be heals. And this is, I feel like, going to be probably the card that will transform Gargs into a class. Problem with late game control Garg decks is the fact that it used to be is the fact that you just playing your Gargs and kind of just die while you're developing them. It takes like a lot of time, but this will make you not die. This means that your other Garg, even that's in lane 1, you know, it'll be hitting face. It'll just keep you at very, very high health if you have several Gargs on the board. I think this is going to actually see a lot of play. Is it going to be that similar to, I guess it's going to be just along the same lines as Piano and Deep Sea Garg, though. So we'll put this again in high B tier. It's keeping you alive. Next we got Octo Zombie, which is still a very expensive card. This does a lot more though because it is leaving value on the board. It still is very expensive for what it does, but it's not just like getting removed and then it has done nothing. It's still a niche card. I'm going to put this in low C tier because I think this is about how good it's going to be. Next we got Zombot. And Zombot, at the end of the day, obviously, Teleport Zombot, it's been turned into a gravestone, but now instead of destroying everything on the board, it only destroys 3 lanes. At the end of the day, this was a huge buff, especially the fact that it's clearing its lane. We are at the end of the day where Zombot just can be fronted by a weenie beanie, and then you spend 8 sun to go face and win the game that turn. Those days are over. This is almost half of their health. And it's just coming. If you don't have any grave removal and they play a Zombot, you're screwed. Besides for the fact that it can very often remove 3 or more plants if they're teamed up. Zombot is a very, very good finisher, and I'm going to be putting an A tier. I think this is going to be a super solid finisher in any slow Beastly deck. Gargs or not, it could literally just be Pogo Mug with Brain Freeze, and then you're just running, you know, 2, and maybe not 4 Zombots, but you're running 2 or 3 of these as a really, really, really solid finisher, and I've definitely seen people have a ton of success so far with Zombot. Obviously, when it comes to leap decks, this has gotten nerfed a little bit, but that's okay. All right, next. Mustache Waxer, oh, such a good card. I've already made a couple of decks with Mustache Waxer, and again, this doesn't die. You play 2 mustaches, this thing already has 6 health. Besides for the fact it's giving you brains, then you can play another mustache. This is incredible, especially with the fact quarterly bonus. We're in the brainy class, we're in the class of quarterly bonus. This is an A tier card. I really think mustaches have made an absolute comeback, and speaking of which is the Duckstache, which is now 3-2, but it'll be going up to, instead of 5-4, it'll be a 6-5. The Ceased only gained 2-2, now it's gaining 3-3. Very solid card. I was really falling in love with this before the balance patch, and now, I mean, this is a big deal. And then imagine this thing doing bonus attacks. It also has synergy with, again, Mustache Waxer. It's not quite going to be an A tier, but this is going to be in high B tier because this is a very, very solid card. Most of your mustache decks, really, a lot of them, not most of them, but a lot of them can run Mustache Waxer, and I even run Duckstache. Just run a bunch of little mustaches. But Duckstache is a very, very solid card, and again, it makes you not run out of cards. It's conjuring things. Next, we got Electrician. The difference between it being a 2-3 and it used to be a 2-2 is not a very big difference. This is actually outclassed by 2 cards in its own class that make you do bonus attacks. One of them being Lurch for Lunch, and the other obviously being quarterly bonus, which we'll get to in a second. They're both also cards that make you do bonus attacks and are better than Electrician. Electrician would have to be justified in exactly Science decks, and even in Science decks, it's not necessarily, you know, Drone Engineer on 2, Electrician on 3 is cute, but it's not great. This is just okay. I'm gonna put this in low C tier because it's gonna be a niche kind of Science deck. Who knows? Maybe if there's just no grave removal in the meta, maybe this will just be amazing. There also is Area 22. There's also Secret Agent. There's gonna be other ways of actually utilizing, creative ways of utilizing Electrician, but this is low. This is really below everything else in C tier. It's definitely better than D though. Next, we got Gentleman Zombie. This card is a big deal. Already seeing a lot of people, Gentleman enjoyers, getting a lot of value from this. It's very hard to kill at 4 health. It takes a big card to remove. Forget about it's a gravestone. So forget about them putting a 4-attack minion in front of this. This is always getting value. You know, 1 turn and then it must be removed the next turn. If you're gaining 2 extra brains every single turn as zombies, you're going to win the game. It's so much value. You can play this and leap it. You can play this and teleport in bigger minions or bigger tricks. This is a very, very good card, and it's going to see a ton of play. This is either going to be high B or low A. Oh, do I think it's going to be that good? I do think. I believe. This is low A tier. I think this is going to be a really big staple in a lot of decks because of just how much it does. And again, it has a ton of health right now, which is what it needed. Next, we got a card I love, which is Regifting Zombie. This is going to be conjuring you 1 card and your opponent 1 card. Your opponent gets -1/1. So if they got a Wild Berry, they put it on the board and just dies. Your card gets +1/1. So it's really not the old regifter that it's basically giving your opponent cards to play that turn and giving them more of an advantage than you. You get the advantage from this. It's cool with, again, with space time and other conjure synergy, Dino Roar, stuff like that. This is a mediocre stat card. It's drawing though. This is pretty good. I just think it's drawing you. It's basically drawing you a card and your opponent not. Yours gets a buff and your opponent's doesn't. At the end of the day, this isn't high C tier because it's going to be hard to find a bunch of decks for this, and it's not going to be that important. But I really think this is solid, and who knows, man. Maybe people will just start running this because the meta has slowed down. They nerfed aggro zombies, they nerfed Triceratops, and in the slowed down meta, card draw is going to be king. Who knows? Maybe that'll even be higher. Next, we got Trigger, because you can run this in any deck now. You literally can run this in any deck, and it will be a good card. It'll be an okay card. Will it be part of your win condition? No, but it'll be fine. Next, we got Trick-or-Treater. Went from 2-3 to 2-4. Again, it's another card that they're not going to be able to remove with a plant that turn usually, and they're going to really have to remove it the next turn because it's going to be conjuring you a lot of value. I don't think this is quite going to be the same as Gentleman, even though it has similar stats and a similar usage, but the fact that it does still have a condition that you need to play a trick in order to activate it makes it a little bit more higher maintenance. I do think this is going to be a solid card for a lot of tempo decks, and again, refreshing and giving you a lot of value. This was a good card even before it was buffed. And I'm putting it in low B tier. Next, we got Gatekeeper. So this is a really tough one for me to do. It lost Bullseye. It's conjuring your opponent and you 1 card, and those 1 cards it's conjuring you and your opponent cost 1 less. The way the card reads is that every card you conjure or your opponent conjures will cost 1 less. What this does right now is that it's only the cards it itself conjures. You can't then, use this as an extra space time, and every other conjured card that you have in your Duckstache and your middle managers are going to be, conjuring cards that cost 1 less. If this did what it said, that just as a blanket statement, this is space-time, conjured cards cost 1 less, this card would be really, really, really good. Now that it's not doing that, and it's just drawing your opponent good cards and you good cards, and it's not Bullseye, it has good stats, this is really, really tough. Again, if it did what it said, this literally could be A tier, but now that it doesn't, it has very good stats. It's also a science zombie, which is going to be important soon. It's got to be low C tier, high D tier. Is anyone really going to run this thing? I'm actually putting this high D tier right now because, again, it's not... It lost the Bullseye. It's going to be hard to really find a home for Gatekeeper the way it is right now. Next is Blob. Blob, before the patch, it was a 1/5. It was one of the best finishers, most reliable finishers in any kind of swarm deck, Tele-Imps, Brain Swarm, anything. One of the most reliable finishers. You got to teleport it in. It's a brainy card, so you can easily do that. Teleport and use bonus attacks. Now it got buffed. I mean, this has got to be S tier. There's no question about it. This is going to be a really big finisher, and I can't wait for people to bring back even more Blob decks. Very fun card. Next, we got Mad Chemist, which is now going, every trick you conjure is going to cost 1 less. It's going to make this a lot more useful. Not going to see a ton of play, because again, it's a more expensive trick-or-treater. I'm going to put this in low C tier, because I do think this is going to be a legit card. Again, card draw is going to be king in a slow meta. And but it's not quite as good as Trick-or-Treater because it is more expensive. And again, 4, and then you have to activate it with a trick. It's just a little bit tough, and there's all of a sudden on turn 4, there's going to be more things that can kill this than, let's say, your Trick-or-Treater when you're playing it on turn 3. And here we go, guys. Other than the bugged king that was making cards you from your hand turn into knights, I'm talking about an actual card that does what it says. You can arguably squeeze that the quarterly bonus. Guys, this is the most broken, busted card in the history of PvZ Heroes, probably in the history of card games. Adding 4 attack and doing a bonus attack. This is the meta. This is the meta. This is Captain Combustible Super Time to Shine in 1 card. This is so busted. Run just a swarm deck. Quarterly bonus. You want an OTK deck? Quarterly bonus. You play All-Star Zombie is meta now because you All-Star and quarterly bonus. It's 4 + 8 + 8 = 20, and they're dead. This is so busted. Again, very controversial if this is bugged still, but on the EA.com blog, you can look up EA PvZ Heroes 2024 balance patch. It does say there that this card should be adding 4 attack and doing a bonus attack, even though that's not what it says here. Here it says it should become 4 and do a bonus attack. This card would be balanced if it did what it said, but now that it's adding 4 attack, not becoming 4 attack, it's adding. I mean, this is the most busted card. I mean, this should be in a tier of its own. This is a problem. This is the reason why everyone's gonna run 4 Wingnuts until this card gets nerfed. This is so much fun, and this is the most oppressive card, period, ever in PvZ Heroes. Take it to the bank. If you don't realize that by now, you're living under a rock. You've been playing Marvel Rivals is what you've been doing, man. Anyway. Gadget Scientist was a great card when it was a 2-3, and now it's an amazing card at 3-3. Haven't had a ton of time to test the Gadget Scientist decks, but the fact, again, that your win condition card, that you're helicoptering with a 6 attack card, and now you're doing 6 instead of 6/6/2, you're doing 6/6/3, you're placing Gadget Scientist into a environment that gives it more attack, and all of a sudden now instead of doing 4, it's doing 5. These are big damage cutoffs. When OTK, every little bit of damage, and this is an OTK card, it's a finisher, every little bit of damage that you do in an OTK deck, adding 1 is a big deal. This is a great card. I'm putting in A tier, and really looking forward to utilizing, we've had a lot of success with Science the last couple of years, and I'm really looking forward to even more. Alright, Gargantuar Mime's also a tough one because it's really weird with the text. This does not have Untrickable. As you can see, it's not outlined. It's not Untrickable. So, what? Gargantuar Mime without the Untrickable is basically worse than it used to be. It used to be a 5/7, now it's just a 5/6 without Untrickable. It's a niche card. It can work with Trickster. It'll basically be exactly the same. 5/7, 5/6 doesn't really make any difference. It'll be basically the same thing as it was before. It works with Trickster. It works maybe with Gadget Scientist. I guess we have to give that another go. It's decent. It's quite decent. It's better than all these C tier cards, so I'm going to be putting in a low B tier. If you have any questions about that, just look up FryEmUp Mime Garg Trickster. I know those videos are old, but they're still going to work probably better nowadays that Black IP and Triceratops are both nerfed. Those decks will be actually a lot better. Where would I rank it with Untrickable? It would be more like A, because then this becomes a 5-cost card that you just spam in every deck, and that's what it was when it was Untrickable. We had like a week where it wasn't. This actually would be higher. This was a really good meta, just spam. It was like a fig. You just spam it on the board, and it worked in everything. Now it's only niche, and it's going to be in B. Next, we got Portal Technician. Portal, again, it's so cute, 5/4. Maybe I should run this with Gadget Scientist, because then if they don't front this is doing 5. This really could end up being such a great idea. This with Gadget Scientist is worth it now. Because it's doing a 5 damage bonus attack. It's something like if they don't front it, if they do front it, you're getting free value. And random zombie is better. Zombie, all the useless, not all, but a lot of the useless zombies have been buffed. Your average zombie is better now. Maybe this is the card we should just be spamming on turn 5. Because it is untrickable. If you shamrocket this, it just makes a guy there. It's so hard to kill. This might actually... Now that I'm really considering this, and I'm going to go crazy with this, putting this in B tier. I was going to put this lower, but now that I'm thinking about the synergy with Gadget, and just the ability to just spam this on the board, and then like quarterly bonus or whatever, man. This having 5 attack is a pretty big deal. I'm going out on a limb, haven't tested it at all, and I'm putting in a low B tier. There you go. This is a great card, man. Viking. Finally, the bugs are fixed. When you play this on the board, it drains your opponent block meter. I've tested this in just aggro decks where you're just spamming a lot of guys. You come in with Shield Crusher Viking, you have a couple little mini ninjas, a little anything, and their block meter is gone. They're not blocking there. The whole way they could have maybe came back into the game is completely gone. This is a really, really, really good card. It's impacting the game so much, even if it gets removed. They're dead, because they're going to die to your other minions on the board. Besides for this, the implications of, this not in a swarm deck, but in a deck with medium range and bigger cards of just basically making sure that your whole win condition is all bullseye. You hit them with something else and then him with the Viking and they're dead. This is an A tier card. This is really, really good. And it's going to have a lot of applications. We're going to be seeing a lot of Vikings. Next, so this was going to be 6/7, it's now 5/6. It's also transforming another zombie into a zombie that costs 1 more. This is not targeted though, so it's not targeting itself anymore. That was bugged, that's fixed. You can't actually choose which zombie if you have several on the board that this is leaping, and that is going to hurt its score a lot. Really, just regular evolutionary leap that makes a zombie cost 1 more for 2 is so much better than Wizard Garg. This is adding stats. I know it's Bullseye, it's a Garg, but this is not the leap ability. It's kind of just an added bonus. You really just kind of have to look at this as a 6 cost 5/6 with a very unreliable ability. I don't think, again, we'll run this in Leap decks for fun, but I don't actually think this is going to see a lot of play. And especially at 6 cost 5/6, now it has very mediocre stats. I'm honestly as excited as I was about the FryEmUp Garg. You can tell me if you get that reference. Honestly, this has to be in high D tier. I don't think anybody's running Wizard Garg these days. It has bad stats. 6/7, I would have put it more like here, but 6 cost 5/6, unreliable ability. I don't see it in a lot of play, but it will be, again, very fun to be running in Leap decks, and we'll try to make sure there's only one guy on the board when you play your 6 cost Leap card. It just doesn't make sense to leap something for 6, you know? But anyway. Next, we got Mechasaur. Oh. So this was a good card. Again, this is a card that if you leave it on the board for 1 turn, you're dead if you're a plant. And now, instead of being a 6/7, it's an 8/8. So there's 2 reasons you're dead. One is because it's deleting basically half your health, Bullseye, and it's also obviously making history zombies, which are some big dudes around the board. This was an A tier card. I mean, high B. This has to be an A tier though. I mean, this is going to be a really good finisher, and the stats really cement this as one of the really strong finishers in this game. I think this is going to see a ton of play. Next, Crazy Class. We got past the Brainy. Grave Robber. This was a huge nerf, going from 2/2 down to 2/1. With little cheap cards, aggro cards, the key to aggro is that they're not easily removed, which is why Con Man is still such a good card. And it's the reason why Grave Robber, I don't think this card is worth it anymore. I really don't. Pirates also have been nerfed. One of the best cards that this together was with Flameface, which is no longer a, made the strike through, but that's no longer a gravestone, so it doesn't have the synergy. This was very solid in just regular aggro decks because it was a 1 cost 2/2 Bullseye. Forget about its ability. Forget about the fact it's a pirate. Forget about the mustache. I don't think this is very good anymore. I'm putting it in high D tier because I just, to run this instead of Con Man, instead of like cards that really have much better abilities and the same stats and the same class, I don't think anyone's running Grave Robber anymore, but we'll see what happens with that. It's too weak at 1 health, man. It's not worth it. Con Man, on the other hand, the only change to this, which I love, is the fact that it's no longer a pirate. So that Infinity Pirate deck where you quick draw Con Man on 1, Swashbuckler on 2, is no longer a thing, and I'm very happy because that was really genuinely overpowered and gave you running too many, because even if you killed the Swashbuckler, which you can't as easily anymore because Black Eyed Peas nerfed, the quick draw Con Man's still hitting face several, potentially several times and growing for each time. So now this is still a really good aggro card. This is still going to be one of the best 1-drops in the game because, again, 1/3 has a ton of health for a 1-cost card. It's all Bullseye, no block meter problems, and it's doing extra damage. I mean, this is just the jack of all trades aggro card. I'm gonna just keep this in S tier where it was. I don't care about pirates. Pirates really made this broken. The pirate being removed took this from SS broken down to S tier. But I really think in every single crazy swarm deck, and those are good still. Flag Zombie, Z-Mech, Trick Mech, that's the way to play aggro nowadays. Con Man is king. Absolute king. Cuckoo Zombie has been killed. Guys, the clock synergy's gone. Why couldn't they use that? You know what I mean? They made every banana, they turned every banana into a fruit. So now we have fruits and what made clock synergy? You look, Cuckoo Zombie, you can go Gatekeeper, just turn them into clock. Make every time you play a clock on the board, every clock everywhere gets +1/1. That would have been so cool. Maybe too good. That would have been so good. And only have 2 clock zombies in the entire game. But no, It didn't do anything. We can't have extra key. Why? Why? Why remove a meme? It doesn't make sense. F tier. Garbage. Now it's just a pet. Pets aren't good. I don't know. Guys, are you with me on this one? Make Escape Through Time a clock card. See? Now we're thinking. Now you guys are... Guys, we're starting a petition. Next time the game's balance patch, the devs did, by the way, very optimistically, there was a little note in the notes of the game that they said they are planning on nourishing the game this coming year, which makes me very optimistic that we might actually see more balance patches. Guys, we gotta make the petition. Forget about Save PvZ Heroes. That petition we've solved already. Taking that one down, it's bring back clock synergy. Cuckoo Zombie, there's gotta be actual clock synergy in the game. Until then, it's easily an F tier. Hell yeah. Justice for clock. Exactly, guys. We got Disco Dance Floor. This was a huge nerf down to 2. Overshoot 2. This is just a 2-cost loose cannon, essentially. This is not a good card anymore. At 3, this was a very, very good card. At 2, man, you killed it. You killed it. I think this is an F tier card. I don't think nobody is going to be playing Disco Dance Floor anymore. Prove me wrong. Next, we got Exploding Fruitcake. It's not a very good... I mean, it doesn't kill Fig, Pecan. These used to kill everything. Wingnut. We need Exploding Fruitcake now more than ever. With Busted Fig, with Pecan taking over the meta for the Guardian, with Wingnut being auto-include in every solar deck. We've never needed Exploding Fruitcake more now. I really wish they made this a 3-cost, do 7 damage. You know, but making it do 5... I mean, I don't think anyone's running this anymore. I think there's just overall going to be a lot better options for removal. What does the crazy class even have for removal? It's not going to be this. It's not Zombot's Wrath. This is a tough one, man. I mean, I guess it's still good. It does 5 damage. It now, instead of killing 5 drops, it kills 4 drops. I'm not optimistic about this card at all. And that's why I'm putting it in high D, low C, low. Okay, when I'm looking at the cards in C tier, I'm going to put it in low C tier. Because I do think that practically this is as good, and you should be running this in basically the same amount of decks as all these C tier cards. And that's where it's going to go. People have been asking me, do I think Final Mission is dead? Since now, it used to be able to do 4 damage to your opponent's face, which was a very common play. You play your Barrel of Deadbeards, and then you do 4 damage to face, and then the Captain Deadbeard does another 4 damage to their face. It was a very powerful play. Now that this can only hit plants, is this card dead? I don't think this is dead. It's obviously a very significant nerf. It, removes one of the finishers, essentially, from your deck. That, one of the reach cards, but I do think that this is still viable. It's mostly going to be with Barrel of Deadbeards, but even like with the 2 heroes that run backup dancers, this just gives you a removal option. It's mostly going to be with Barrel of Deadbeards, though. It's not as good as it used to be. It's not as good as any of these B tier cards, so we'll put this in high C tier. Put it along with Fruitcake, which is in low C tier. There should be like 8 or 9 tiers, but I think the fact that I was doing 7 is enough here, right? Alright, here's the card, Zombot's Wrath. Is this going to be the new removal card of the crazy class? I've tried this. This is very, very hard to activate. Because if you have 2 zombies on the board, this does 2. This is terrible. And 2 is like as much as you can expect. Especially since the plants got a chance to remove your zombies during their phase, and this is happening in the trick phase. 3? I mean, this would have to do 3 in order to be even on par, and it can go face for 3. This card, honestly, is really, really bad. It's so going to be useless in control decks. It's only going to be good in tempo swarm decks with a lot. The crazy class doesn't have anything that goes in the water, by the way, so this is the wrong class for this to need, like, the water lane to be open. you know, for it to be really good. I don't think this is going to see any play, and I think it's in D tier. This is a really, really flawed card right now. I know it can go face. It can go face for 5 if you have 5 guys. That's a miracle. And then it's 2 cost 5 damage to face. Hey, maybe that'll be a deck. Maybe this will be good with, like, binary stars. I don't know, man. I don't think it's good. It's unreliable. You're running it in a deck, you got to get value from it. There's going to be a lot of situations, even in a Storm deck, where it's just not going to do enough. You're just going to have 2 units on the board. Even in Trick Mac, you're only averaging 2 units on the board at a time, even though you're running, you know, 15 1-drops. Abracadaver went from 3-2 to 3-3. This is a very decent card. Haven't found the great use for it yet, but I'm super optimistic about this. It's not going to be quite A, but this is going to be high B tier along with all these other ones. I think this is going to be a very commonly included and kind of like surprise Abracadaver that doesn't really get, you know, very low risk because it's a 3 cost 3/3 and very high reward, even if this hits face 1 time. Extremely, extremely good. So this will be, yeah, it's not quite here, but it's high B tier. Next, we got PvZ, which just added Barrel, which the only difference is now it's conjured from Barrel of Barrels. Who cares, man? Anyway, this has always been a pretty mediocre environment that is outclassed by Area 22 and Laser Base Alpha, which I know are not in the same class as this, but are the similar costs and are way, way better than PvZ. This does have some uses, though. I'll put this in just low C tier, which is probably where I usually put it, right? Aggro, also, for the crazy class, has been nerfed a little bit. This is a fine finisher, though. It activates cards. Your Abracadabras will love PvZ, so maybe that's a little buff to this. But anyway. Alright, here's a really tough one. Gizzard Lizard. This does so much, doing 3 damage every plant. This does so... I don't think I've seen anyone run Gizzard Lizard yet. I haven't even tried it. I'm really excited about this. This is such a big deal. I've been seeing Pineclone decks do really good, and I've been kind of wishing I had a Gizzard Lizard in my back pocket. Pineclone decks are good these days. Man, I'm optimistically putting this in B tier. I think this is actually, and again, these B tier cards, these are good. Don't think B is like, it's mediocre. C is mediocre. B is a good, solid card. I'm optimistically, A means they're going to finish the game, and S means they're going to explode your opponent and they're going to die automatically. You have to understand, put in context here, what I'm putting in B. These are good cards. This is a good card. This is in low B tier. I do think there's going to be a lot of you. This does so much. You're going to have to find me either teleporting it in or find a way to really use this in a deck with smaller zombies in it. This is a big, this does so much, man, for a 3 cost, though. And it has good stats, too. Love it. Cake got down to 3, which I wish they would have kept, so the crazy class has a good a replacement for Cake. I guess Cake is in C tier because Cake Explosion now costs 4. Anyway, this is in F tier. They killed the card, they brought it back for a week, and they killed it. They brought it back to 4 cost. I don't know about that, man. The next one is going to be Garg launching Imp. Man, this is a good card. At 5, it was decent, and there were a lot of good uses for it. F4, this card is really good. It's a 4-cost card making 5-cost cards, and 5-cost Gargs in general have gotten buffed. If you're just looking at, like, well, we'll get into Frankentuar in a second. A lot of them have been buffed. This is a really big deal. This card is really good. You play in Hunting Grounds, stick it in front of team-ups, you put it in front of, you know, just a little one-attack guy, you know, this is just a menace. And the way people remove things nowadays is with Berry Blast and Sizzle, and those cards still, you're spending a card to kill this, and it's still making a card. This card is an absolute menace. This is a really, really good card. I'm putting in A tier. There's going to be a lot of really good uses for that. Can't wait to find more. We've already done one really good one. I can't wait to find more. Bobblehead. So this, again, really just got nerfed from 3-4 down to 2-4. This was a good card before. Is it understated? It's very understated now, being a 4-cost 2-4. This is not, that's a pretty big nerf. Because it used to have mediocre stats, now it has terrible, it has Starch Lord level stats, guys. That's not good. I'm going to put this in C tier because it'll probably be about the same as these. It's still okay, because it's still, again, if you can upgrade it and somehow get a lot more brains to play a lot more zombies that turn, this can do a ton to your opponent's face. But the real card that dominates dancing synergy is not Bobblehead or Headhunter. It is Flamenco Zombie. And Flamenco Zombie, this I'm probably putting higher than I ever have, because it was literally just this last year, about 1 year ago today, that we found the real use for Flamenco Zombie. The top tier use for Flamenco Zombie. It's binary stars on turn 6, you bungee, and then you Flamenco. The Flamenco does 8 damage when you have a binary stars on the board, and that deck is disgusting. It's so strong. The fact this went from 3-2 down to 3-1 doesn't matter at all, because this is just a finisher. This is a card that ends the game when it's played, and if it doesn't, it doesn't matter if it gets removed at that point, usually. This is an A tier card, no cap. Very, very, very good with binary stars specifically, and that's a really, really, really tough deck that should not be overlooked. If you don't know what that is, the binary flamenco decks, look them up. They dominated in a way that we haven't had decks dominate in a really long time. Frankentuar. Okay, so this card now does so much. 5 cost 5/7, which is great stats. Not only is it gaining attack and health, gaining stats every time one of your zombies dies, but it does splash damage too. And the really cool combo is if you place this with Boogaloo into an area 22. So now it's a 7/9 frenzy splash damage. So every time that splash damage kills something, this will do a bonus attack from its frenzy. If you can find any way to give this frenzy, maybe with also Colosseum that was buffed, maybe that will also be an option. And then you have going viral. That will probably even be better doing it with the doing this with Z-Mech. Really excited to try that deck. This does a lot. This is a very good card, and you can just run it, because again, if they don't answer, the amount that this does from one attack, it used to be this had to like grow on the board and stay around, which it didn't, but now one attack, splash damage too. It's hitting team-ups. Plants have team-ups, so this splash damage can hit up to 4 plants now. This does all that. Amphibious decks are good, and this is a pretty good answer to, like, you know, medium-sized amphibious cards also, if you play this in lane 4. This is a very good card. It's not quite A. It's not there with these ones, but it's high B tier. Super solid. B is like the solid, but it's not meta defining, I don't think. Next, yeah, works with Tima and the Frenzy. See, Zombot, when you put it into area 22, has an ability that not its attack is killing something, its ability is killing something. And that's why the Zombot doesn't do a million bonus attacks when you play it in Area 22. Splash damage is considered part of the attack. And that's why Frankentuar is doing Frenzy. If you can give it Frenzy, it's going to be doing Frenzy attacks when its splash damage kills something. Just think about how that works. I'll show you that, guys, that deck, again, in the next 2 weeks. That's one of the first decks I'll show you. Hippity Hop Garg. So was this a 6/4 before or a 6/5? It's hard to keep track. I think this was now buffed from 6/4 to 6/5, and it's also making Mr. Egg when played. So this is making twice as many eggs, essentially. This is good. This is a solid card. I gotta put this also in like low B tier, because this is, again, you can just run this, and it's just throwing value around the board. Guys, you have more guys to use your quarterly bonus on. This is a solid card. It was a pretty solid card. And, you know, I love this card in, like, Garg Mech. That was a really fun deck. A little overrated, but very solid deck. Yep, it's going in low B tier. Just under Frankentuar. Next, we got Disco-Tron 3000. Went from 4/4 to 5/5. I don't think this is going to see a lot of play still. I hope it will, but I think this is just going to be in like low C tier along with like Zookeeper. There's going to be some uses. It has good stats. It puts a ton of stats on the board for a 6-cost card. If we can see like grave removal and really the Guardian class, which is making resurgence because Photosynthesizer was rebuffed. I kind of like that Photosynthesizer costing 2 overall. But if we can see gravestones being a little safer, this card really does a lot. But it's a big expensive gravestone. And it doesn't do that much, even though it does plenty. Next, we got Leftovers. This is a really, really good card. In any deck, but especially, again, in Swarm decks. You can be doing it with your Teacher decks that don't run Flag. You can do it with Flag Zombie. You can do it with your Tempo Smash decks. So you're not running either of those, but really just be able to put a ton. It can put 3/3 on the board for 1. I mean, this does so much for a 1-cost card. Leftovers is really good. I'm putting in an A tier, and I'll be showing you guys the new version of Trick Mech that runs Leftovers. It's insane. This card just it's comparable to Healthy Treat, which is one of the best cards in the game. Not quite as good. Healthy Treat's a little more reliable because this needs, again, 2 cards on the board for it to be par, but even with 2 cards on the board, this is a lot of stats. It's a Healthy Treat if you have two minions on the board. Unlike Zombot's Wrath. It's terrible when you have 2 on the board. Next, we have Lost Colosseum. This is one of the wild cards in terms of where to put this on this tier list. I don't have the deck for this yet, but this does so much. 2 cost 2/3s, good stats, and then it's a new way of adding Frenzy, man. And it's adding Frenzy, it's adding 2/3. This does so much. This is a good card. I'm going to optimistically... Okay, I can't put it in A tier because it's not quite there. Honestly, I think there are going to be decks where this is A or even S tier. This does a lot, man. This is going to be the highest B, high B tier. And I'm really, again, not based on my knowledge now. I'm just brainstorming the ideas. I think this is going to be super solid. High B tier. Along with all the rest of the B tier cards. I believe this is representing Terrify. Yeah, it's Terrify. So this, instead of drawing a card, is Conjuring. This was a bad card before, even though we loved running Terrify. It was such a good meme, and we did find some legit uses for it. Now that it's not even drawing a card in your deck, it's Conjuring, and it's conjuring a monster, which is giving you, like, Yetis. It's giving you cards that you're not necessarily going to need a lot. It's not even that good of a class monster. You're getting, you know, Ghost from it. There's 2 ghosts. This is so bad. Run this with Space Time. I'm going to optimistically put this in bottom D tier, but it probably is, it's probably an F tier. I'm going to optimistically put this in the very bottom of D tier, though. Next, we have Landscaper. So Landscaper is used a little different than Electrician. It's also a 2/2 gravestone that now has been buffed to 2/3. But like Landscaper is a tempo card. This -2 attack, now with its 3 health that it has, can make it live a lot more. This card lasts until you can mug, until you can have this on the board and buff something. As a tempo card, gaining health as opposed to Electrician, which is more of a finisher. Its main use. This is a good solid, always has been a good solid card, and it is a pretty solid card. Can I put this quite in B? I'm going to put this actually in high C, but, oh man, but Control Neptuna, this is really good. This has a lot of uses. This card might be one of the most underrated right now in the game. I don't think I've seen anyone really use the new Landscaper. This could be really, I'm putting this in the very bottom of B tier. Because I think overall, you can basically run this in any deck and it's going to be fine. And again, if you're running Swarm with Leftovers, it's a body. And it's going to be really good. It'll be a 3/4, play going viral, it's a 4/5. And it's keeping your guys alive. It's, again, reactivating with Mug. And in control decks, it activates your Rolling Stones. I think this is fine. I'm putting it in the bottom of B tier. I think it's a solid card, and I think people are gonna soon realize. Next, we got Bonus Track Buckethead, which is a very high stat card now, 4 cost 4 with armor, and it answers exactly the Mega Grow class that it can't do its plant food. It's pretty useless against everything else. I don't think it's gonna see. It's a good card, but again, unless you're playing in a tournament and you're countering the Mega Grow meta, I don't think anyone's going to run this. I'm putting it in D tier because it's still a decent card, but who the hell's going to run it? All right, Moppy boy. Moppy. I haven't given you a test yet. I'm putting this in low C tier. I think we're going to find some uses for it, and it really is, again, more viable. Oh, wow, is this the answer to Wingnut now? Is this the Wingnut Killer? It's still worse overall than a much more useful card, Knockout, that doesn't have to have an environment and also costs one less and also is in the trick phase. This is a zombie. This is low C tier. My boy Mop. I can't tell if this is a buff or a nerf. I think we're going to find some uses for it. Oh boy, here we go. Turquoise Skull Zombie is a monster right now. This not only is good stats, 4-2-6, but now it's gaining 1, and it's also gaining a health now, which is the buff this got in the patch, gaining attack and health every single turn. So this card is so hard to remove because it's also stealing your opponent's sun every single turn. So it makes the removal a lot worse because they're not necessarily going to have the resources to kill this. This is a monster. You can run this in every single hardy deck. This is so good. This is almost S tier. Oh man, it's got to be the same as like the Zombot and the Gadget Scientist and the Viking. I can't put it higher than those, so this is going to go in A tier, but this is an A tier card. You can run this in every... You're playing Control, you're playing Tempo, you're playing Swarm, and you want just a little... May drive them nuts. It's just so much for a 4-cost card, man. It's good. It's a good one. Next, some Bandits is very good. Yeah, another deck I have to show you. Zombie King. It went from 3-5 to 3-6. Probably one of the most underrated cards ever in PvZ Heroes, to be honest. It doesn't do the bug anymore. That's good. This is a very, very solid card. It's going in B tier. I don't think it's quite Turquoise Skull, because again, it has conditions. It needs to... You need another minion to live in order for this to do anything. But we have the Rust Bowl deck where you leap the Knights. After it makes the Knights, you leap them to A-cost cards, which is better now, because Octo Zombie is actually a lot better, that first leap. I guess Zombot's worse. Alright, next. Solid card in B tier. Next, we got All-Star. Alright, well, I already alluded to this, but the deck is you play Rust Bolt, and I'll show this to you soon. All-Star Zombie, you just play this dry on turn 5. All-Star's new buff is that it's untrickable. So unless they have Briar Rose, Cob Cannon, Primal Pea Shooter, or Eye Spore, they can't do anything about this. They're Sizzles, they're Berry Blast. I guess Jumping Beam would knock this off the board too. But anyway, very, very difficult card to deal with. And then you can play Quarterly Bonus, and then it does 8 attack, 8 plus 8 plus 4 is lethal. That is the way people are using All-Star. That is a meta deck. That is something that people are running. It's very good. I don't think this is going to be, played as a tempo card, because there's so many better cards that cost 1 less that are kind of just good tempo cards, kind of as finishers in earlier game decks. Because of this one deck, this is actually very, very solid, and I'm putting in a low B because of the one deck with Rust Bolt with Quarterly Bonus. Once Quarterly Bonus is nerfed, this will probably fade into obscurity. But right now, Quarterly Bonus makes that worth it. Raw Zombie is also very good. It went from 6 cost to 5 cost. It's draining 2, so basically think of it netting a 3 cost... 3-4, which is very good stats. Obviously not quite as useful as the 3 cost 3-4. It's also, again, really removing your opponent's ability to deal with you. Works very well with Turquoise Skull. It's not quite Turquoise Skull, but it is a solid card, and I'll put it in, again, low B tier, because it's solid. This is good. Should I put this lower here? This is good. I'm going to optimistically put this in low B tier, because it is better. Yep, it is better than more useful than a lot of these C tier cards. This does a lot. It may drive plants insane. Here's another card, Coffee Zombie. I could see this really seeing a lot of play, because now it buffs itself to 6-5, as opposed to it used to be 4-3. Now it's 5-4, and then the buff will bring it up to 6-5 instead of just buffing itself to 5-4. It's a big zombie in itself. It's also giving your cards Frenzy. It's giving your cards a 1-1 buff. It's a good card. It's a great card. I think this is actually more useful than the cards in C, so I'm putting this again in low B tier. Solid card. Can't wait to use it. Next, Undying Pharaoh got armor. That's the difference. Now it has armor a little bit harder to remove. It's very niche. I'm not a big believer in Undying Pharaoh because, again, when your opponent's ready to kill you, they can kind of like wait. The Undying Pharaoh doesn't really do anything until they're ready to kill you, and then they can save their removal, remove this, and then kill you all in one shot. I'm going to put this in high C tier because I think that's about how useful it is. My good friend Tryhard will probably not like that, though. Next, we got Zombot Battle Cruiser. Went from 6'5 to 6'6. It's a very small buff in the grand scheme of things. You're between 5 and 6 health. It's not a big deal, especially a card that's naturally protected the first turn it's played. This is just an okay card. It's better than these D tier cards, so it's going in low C. It's just a little bit slow because it's allowing the plants to remove all your guys before this pops out of the gravestone. Without the gravestone, this card would probably be S tier. Next we got Wannabe Hero. So right now this is not gaining, like, if you have 10 health, so then this Wannabe Hero, even if it's healing your face for 3, it's still only going to have 11 health. It's not going to have 14. It seems like a bug. It seems like the heal should happen, and then it should see your 14 health and actually have 15. You know, be able to heal yourself and then gain health based on that. Seems like that's what the card is supposed to do. Right now that it doesn't do that, it's still a high stat card that heals a little bit, a small amount of utility. It's not great, and this is going to be in D tier practically, even though we have a lot of fun with Wannabe Hero. Ducky Tube Zombie is going right along with all of our solid, strong cards in B tier. B tier is no joke, guys, because B tier has some good zombies in it. This is really good. The key is the fact it hits face one time, and now it's a 2/3. Now this card is no joke, and it's a 3/4. Like that one cost 2/3 stats after turn 1 is the key for this. Still pinging your opponent's block meter a lot. But it's a really solid card to be just sticking in the water lane in any kind of deck that likes to have a lot of zombies on the board. Super solid. Mini Ninja. Oh, where am I going to put you? This is either going to be in B or A, man. This is really, really good. High reward, very low risk. Because now this can't get up traded anymore. Click P. Lima Pleurodon, they don't kill this card anymore, so you spam this on the board on turn 1, and it's quite good to do so. Because if they can't answer it, they're taking 4 on turn 1, which is insane. This is high B, low A. I think this is gonna, honestly, I'm putting this in low A. I think this is gonna see a ton of play. I think this is going to be almost auto-include in almost every sneaky deck, for real. Anything that's not, again, short of a control deck, I think is just going to automatically run several Mini Ninjas. This is a really, really solid card. And finally, we also have a, for Neptuna, Flag Zombie now has a really good sneaky 1-drop to be running with Flag Zombie. You got your Middle Manager, you got your Genetic Experiment, which are hardy cards, of course your Teachers, but now we have Mini Ninja as being a really, really solid 1-drop. So happy Mini Ninja got buffed like that. It's perfect. That's the perfect card. So Monkey Smuggler, so again, Pirates are nerfed, which is probably the main nerf to Monkey Smuggler. It also does quite a lot less that instead of stealing 2 from your opponent's block meter, now it's only stealing 1. I think this nerf will really make a lot more opportunities for people to be running other pirates. The other thing that also changed is that Spikeweed Sector on the plant side got nerfed from 2 to 3, which now makes... We're going a little bit advanced here, but now it makes Ice Pirate better than Monkey Smuggler. Because the whole reason you didn't want to run Ice Pirate before is because of how weak it was to Spikeweed Sector. Was one of the reasons you didn't want to run this. And especially if you play an Environment on 1, a Black Hole Graveyard on 1, and Ice Pirate into it, which is a great, awesome play. That used to die so badly as Spikeweed Sector wasn't worth it. But now, Spikeweed Sector is a 3-cost card. Ice Pirate is stocks went way up, which means indirectly Monkey Smuggler's stocks went way down, less because of its own ability, more because of Spikeweed Sector. We're not going to see as much Monkey Smuggler. We're going to see Ice Pirate. We're living in the era. I really can't wait to do the Black Hole. Black Hole Ice Pirate is so good. It's the new thing. Doesn't have to even be in a pirate deck. Anyway, guys, enough of my ranting. This is not a good card anymore. I would have put it in C, but now because of the Spikeweed Sector thing, this is down in D. I think we're done. I don't think we're Monkey Smuggler anymore. That other reason also is like this dies to Black-Eyed P. But no one's gonna run Black-Eyed P. Anyway, forget that last one. Alright, so what's going to be with Pirates as a whole? And again, it really revolves around Flameface. This is what the card actually used to be right when it was released many years ago. This used to not be a gravestone, and then they buffed it to have a gravestone, and now this is a pretty significant nerf. Pirates like being gravestones. You don't want, this can get sizzled now, which is a 3-cost card. It doesn't work with Headstone Carver, which was a very important card in gravestones, or, Con Man's gone. Headstone Carver has no synergy anymore. Grave Robber has been nerfed to obscurity. It's really not worth it anymore. Are pirates dead? No, I think we're going to find new creative ways of making pirates alive. And Swashbuckler is mega buffed now that Black Eyed Pea, which was auto-include in a third of every plant deck, Swashbuckler's zombie lives a lot more on turn 2, which makes this a lot better. I think this is going to be viable, not nearly what it used to be as an S tier card, but I think Flameface is still good. I think this is still going to be good. It's either high C or low B. I'm going to put it optimistically in low B because I think pirates are still doable. It's just going to take a little creativity. Don't panic, guys. If you want a new pirate that's going to become part of the pirate package, here it is as Imp Commander, because now this is a gravestone, so it is going to work with Headstone Carver. This is kind of going to replace Flameface in a way. Flameface maybe will be played more on turn 4, and then make your Imp Commander go face and draw a card, and do all that jazz. This is a buff. I like the gravestone. Becomes a little worse for tele-imps, but in almost every other situation, this being a gravestone is really good. I love that this just surprise. It's a great, you don't know what it is on turn 3, and now your little imposter is drawing a card. Your toxic waste imp that they were kind of waiting till next turn to answer, all of a sudden that's drawing a card now. This does a ton. This does a ton for a 3-cost card. This is really good. The surprise value, the fact it's so hard to play around. They need a grave removal. It's must remove this turn, it's must remove next turn. This is a big buff, man. This is a big buff. Wow. Just trying to think of the implications here, man. I almost wish I ran this in my aggro deck with the Mini Ninjas. This is in the same class as Mini Ninja. This is a big deal. I'm putting this in high B tier. I think this is going to be a big deal of a card. Alright, High Diver. So it's better. It used to be 3-cost 3/4 after the buff. Now it's going to be 3-cost 4/3. So it's doing more damage. It's doing more. At the end of the day, this is still terrible because the design of this card is flawed. If you have 2 High Divers in your deck, you're never going to be able to play both of them. You need the Heights lane to be clear and the Water lane to be clear. And that problem still persists. There's never a reason to run High Diver Zombie, man. You have to also run no Chimney Sweeps or anything that likes to be on Heights or anything that likes to play around environments and be on Heights. You also have to run no other amphibious cards in your deck, or else it's the 3-cost 3/2. This is an F tier card. Just a design flaw. Simple. Next, Firefighter went from 4-cost 4/5 to 4-cost 5/5. I mean, it's a mega stat card with a huge liability. Other than in meme decks, this is still not going to see any play. It's too much of a liability. I guess maybe now there's a deck, theoretically, where you play Control your first 3 turns, you play Firefighter, you scoop up your Landscaper with your Firefighter. Maybe in Control Neptuna this could be a thing. And then you activate this somehow, because it does 5. I mean, 5 is a big deal. Alright, Firefighter, I'm giving you a chance. I'm putting you in optimistically in low D tier, guys. Putting it in perspective. Here we go. Pogo. This nerf actually matters more than I thought it would. I've been running quite a lot of Pogo Mug. Now that Guardian, people are running that less because of Triceratops nerf. People are going to start running it more now because of Photosynthesizer, so Pogo Mug is worse now. 2-1, it matters because it's dying to like a Galactic Cactus Splash. It's dying to like Hot Lava, which a lot of people are running right now. Like, it's just less safe than it used to be. It doesn't matter that much, but it is significant. It's still a really good card.
What if Firefighter made
instead of being S, I think this is going to be A, and probably most of that is just my inability to run this last year because of Blockbuster. I don't really think I've seen a Blockbuster since the patch, though, so maybe this is still S tier. It really just depends about how many blockbusters there are. I'm going to put the solid in A tier. I think that's safe. It's still S tier, probably. Honestly, I haven't seen a single blockbuster ever. I mean, I've seen like one or two since the patch, so it's probably up in S. All right, I'm putting it in broken. I'm putting in S. I don't care. Tomb Raider Zombie. You convinced me. This is cool. Went from 3-5 stats to 5-3. This is Firefighter. You want to see a Firefighter? I'll show you. All upside, no downside. This has 5 attack. This is a very solid card. It's in high B tier just because I can't put it with these A tier cards that are like meta defining. But this is a really, really solid card. Can't wait to make some decks with it. Unthawed Viking is bugged right now, so it doesn't actually freeze all plants in its lane. It's only freezing things when you play it in the water. So in its current bugged state, I can't really rate this very high. We have some uses. Again, it's still working with the Pirate Evolution. It's still freezing everything around. It's gaining the 1/1 buff. Doesn't really change the card that much. Gaining a little extra stats. It's a meme card that does have some niche uses, so instead it's going in D tier. Once this starts actually working and they fix the bug with this, that it's actually freezing plants in its own lane, even if it's not in the water, I think this will actually be more useful, and we could see this go up to like high C tier. It wouldn't really go beyond that, but right now in its bug state, it's not good. Nothing, and it gains nothing. It's a 5-cost card that gained 1 health. You're still an F tier, Blowgun Imp. Live it up to your name once again. And we got Gargoth. Here's a big card now. So this is doing a lot more than it used to be. By the way, so again, this all depends on how grave removal works. If we can get out of the blockbuster meta, this card's really good. Gargs are also very good right now. Like, Gargs are hugely buffed, and the synergy this has of putting every Garg, essentially healing it every turn by putting it into a gravestone and popping it back out. This card is a big deal, and now it's also stealing your opponent's block meter, so this 7 attack has so much of a higher chance of going face. If, you know, your opponent could just, like, they have to have something with 6 attack to answer this. So the opponent used to be able to just let this go face one time and, you know, you'll block if they have a full block meter. Now that's not even an option. This is stealing too. This does so much. This is really, really good. It's going in my favorite class today. I can't put this in A, but it's good B tier. This is good, though. This is a good card. And I can't wait to show you Gargoth Zombot with Brain Freeze. It's going to be a good deck. Oh, can't wait to show you guys that one. Zombot Stomp at 6 costs instead of 7 costs is still a meme tier card, I believe. Bouncing on the ground, it's not reliable. It's much better now. It's much more useful at 6. I don't think this is going to see a lot of play. I'm going to optimistically put this in low C tier because I think it'll probably be around same as Battlecruiser. Mop. It's definitely better than the D tier cards. This does a lot for a 6-cost card. This can be counted on, theoretically, as a finisher. Alright, so that's going to conclude the zombies. Let's move on to the superpowers. We'll do that at the end. Backup dancers, I am going to put in the same as I did More Sport, which again, relative to other superpowers, this used to be just F tier, but now it is useful. This probably is even better than More Sport, because being dancing is better with Flamenco and Headhunter. Being mustaches is actually really good right now because a mustache waxer is an A tier card, and this does make 2 mustaches on the board. So this essentially, when you play this, gives your mustache waxer 4 extra health. It also gives you 2 brains. It's kind of busted. Man, maybe this is even, maybe because of the selective placement of this, maybe this is almost, and the synergy with the mustache and the dancing, man. This is really good. I'm still going to put this in super high C tier because this is quite solid. It's still one of the worst superpowers, if we're being perfectly honest. Just compare this to just like Electro Bolt. Like this is this is 100 times better than Backup Dancers. So I'll keep it in C tier, but I'm optimistic and I love this change. I love the fact, again, now you can target one of the backup dancers, which he used to not be able to. Super Brain Super, on the other hand, this used to be one of the best in the game, and now this might be the best. This might even be better than Missile Madness, for real. This is so big, because the 1/1 buff happens twice, because this does a bonus attack, and you play this in the trick phase, so that guy's gonna attack again. So it's really like a 2-attack buff. And it's doing a bonus attack, and it costs 1, and Huge Gigantic as the stocks went way down. We'll get to that in a second. So Super Brains is super viable now over Huge Giganticus. I mean, it's S tier. I'm not gonna say it's busted. I love it. I love the fact this is it's almost busted. This is the best card in S tier, like, for real. This is so freaking good. You can see the Aggro Super Brains deck that I posted already if you want some examples. My boy Brain Freeze got frozen. This is what this power, we've been saying this for years in the channel. This is what this always should have done. It freezes all plants. This is such a good card now. The problem, I know it's different between 3 and 5. So first of all, it's doing almost twice as much. That's one way of putting it. But it's answering amphibious cards, which are hard to answer, and amphibious is really good right now. It's also not play aroundable. Like, you used to be able to play around Frozen Tundra. You can't play around it anymore. All your plants are subject to it. This is 4 times better than it used to be. Not twice as good. It's 4 times better. This is so good, man. I'm putting this in, it's not S tier, but I'm putting this in A tier. This is a super, super solid, frozen solid superpower. I love this. It's a big deal. Immorticia Bats has always been decent and went from 2/1 to 2/2, which has some surprising uses. You're seeing a lot of Admiral Navy beans now, even Sting beans, things that this is surviving, especially because it's amphibious. The little Zombats, you can play it in the water. Also drawing cards. This has always been a very underrated superpower, and now it is buffed. This is solid B tier. Love it. I love my bats. It also is the only pet that is worth really buffing your cat ladies with, because this adds 6 attack to a cat lady. So one lunchbox and 1 bats gets you to 11 attack for your cat lady. Love it. Neptuna Super got buffed because now the Octo Zombie has Frenzy again against Admiral Navy Bean. It's going face now. If you add Healthy Treat, which Neptuna can always do, all of a sudden this guy is going face for a lot. It's a pretty good buff. I like it. I like it. This is going to go along with Immorticia in B tier. It's a very good power, though. Very good power. Solid B tier. And last but not least, alright, so Huge Giganticus. I'm going to rate this based on what it does now. Right now, this is making all of your environments cost less. All of your tricks in your hand cost less. It's conjuring you 2 cards, an environment and a trick, so it's drawing you a lot. Right now, it's making it's making all plant environments and plant tricks that they have in their hand also cost 1 less, which is a huge downside. I'm seeing a lot when I'm running Huge Giganticus of plants making these super efficient plays because I made like 2 or 3 cards in their hand cost less. In its current state, this is not the S tier card it used to be. This used to be the most busted card in PvZ Heroes. This is still very, very solid for superpower in terms of does so much. In its current state, I'm just going to put this mediocre in B tier. I think that when this is solved, I'm going to put it in A tier. The fact that it's affecting a lot of cards potentially in your hand and drawing you 2 cards that are also affected and you can play very quickly. I think it'll be A, but for now it's just kind of just average and it'll be B tier. Anyway, guys, we finally did it. That was all the zombie... that was all the zombie cards that have been buffed and nerfed in the last patch. I really, really hope they nerf quarterly bonus, because that's the problem. Let me know civilly in the comment section below what you agree and disagree with. I will make one little shot out here so you guys can see the entire list all in one shot. There it is. Take your screenshot, enjoy. Anyway, guys, that's all for now. If you want to see more PvZ Heroes content, be sure to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace. This is Fry.